to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Hemingway, a writer and technologist, and the co-author of Maximum Brainpower. Learn how to protect and challenge your brain. Welcome, Collins.
Welcome, yes, and thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much.
Now, you worked with Bill Gates for 12 years, and you co-authored a book with him, Business at the Speed of Thought. What was that like for you?
Well, it was a great experience working at Microsoft. It was a very busy time in the high-tech industry, as it is even today, and I got to work with Bill in a lot of different situations, and eventually that led to a desire on his part to do a book about the Internet and business, and I happened to be in the right place at the right time.
And did it help you maximize your brain power?
Oh, it absolutely did. The book is a cross-section of both technologies and industries, and we mapped up the appropriate technologies with the appropriate businesses and went from there. And it was quite a challenge between working with Bill and the actual technologies and business situations that we became involved with, and working with customers and all that sort of thing.
What keeps you fresh, Collins?
Well, it's doing different things. Certainly that's one of the principles in our book, Maximum Brainpower, is to not let yourself get into a rut. And so I try to take on different challenges, like working on different books with different people who are usually smarter and more learned than I, and learning new things is very stimulating and a lot of fun.
How is it to co-author a book with, let's say, a neuroscientist? Do you feel on equal footing, or do you feel that you really need to facilitate the information for the reader? I mean, it's an interesting job to be a technological writer. Go ahead.
Well, you're right, and whether I'm on equal footing or not in the subject matter, obviously I won't be at the start or even at the end, but I think I'm experienced enough and have been around long enough and have a sort of a general background in both science and technology to feel comfortable at least jumping into the subject matter, in this case psychology and brain science and so on. And Shlomo is a professor by training, so we got along really well. I was the eager student and he was the doting professor.
Well, professors can pontificate, so you need, I see by the laughter and enough said. But the point also is that do you make critical decisions in what to present to the reader and where to, like, cut the pontification, or where it might be condescending, or where the reader might need to know more?
I think it's fair to say I do all those things. That's sort of the expertise I bring, the view from the outside to help an expert figure out how to say something often fairly technical, whether it's computer technology with Bill or science technology or brain science technology with Shlomo. Just trying to make sure we can capture the essence of the idea in language and in a format that the average reader can understand, and particularly a reader who may not have the same background but is a smart person. I mean, I try not to write books that are dumbed down. I just try to write books that are understandable to somebody who may not be an expert in the field. And so I bring, I'll certainly defer ultimately to my colleagues' judgment, but I will make very strong recommendations about how to proceed and how to structure something. And I, in addition to what, in this case, Shlomo would do in his own research, he would also point me off to other research, and I would look that up and then bring back some additional information and mix it in with his stuff. So it's a very interactive process. He throws in stuff, I throw in stuff, we argue about it, we talk about it, and then we settle on how to proceed.
The book read very well. It was very easy to read, and there was a lot of information that I knew, because I'm kind of in stress management. You have to know about it. But there were little twists and turns that I thought offered interest for even a knowledgeable reader. Now, does technology strain the brain? What's your opinion?
Do you mean the new technology that we have in terms of tweeting and posting and all of that?
I think technology overload might be a good point here.
Right, yes. No, there's no doubt about it that misused technology can either create a lot of stress or make us lazy. And I'll start with the lazy first. Using GPS all the time really dulls our sense of spatial awareness and really makes it, we basically get lazy and our brain sort of spools down if we constantly rely on technology to do the work for us. And if that's the case, we simply have to find other things to stimulate the brain to get us back at full function. But technology, in the sense of people trying to constantly multitask, creates a lot of stress because it goes against the basic biology of the brain. Our brain has to focus on something long enough to really understand it before it can shift to something else. And if you're constantly jumping around, you not only don't remember the stuff you've been doing, but you also greatly ramp up your stress levels.
So we're talking about a time period where we can do amazing things with technology. A lot of medicine is driven by robotics. Do you think doctors are losing their facility, their dexterity, their surgical prowess if they rely on robotics?
No, I wouldn't think so at all, because what we don't know about biology and what there is still to learn about genetics, about surgery, about medicine, there's so much in front of us that it's a little bit like computers maybe in the 1950s. It was great that they were first able to start crunching a lot of numbers, but there was still so much left to do, and we're even really only scratching the surface today. I think everything that can be done in the medical field robotically probably just helps the quality of outcome, because the robot can be far more consistent than a human being can. But of course you want that human being still engaged, so that if there is something wrong that goes wrong, or if everyone's physically laid out slightly different, that there will be anomalies that the robot isn't going to be able to understand.
So you want to keep the past while you delve into the future. Well, we go to a future commercial, and we will return with Collins Hemingway. He's the co-author of Maximum Brainpower.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, on Amazon.
You're listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Collins Hemingway, co-author of Maximum Brainpower. Now, Collins, the buzzword now is neuroplasticity all over town. How do we address then our quite often mental inflexibility?
Well, the whole idea of neuroplasticity is that the brain will literally rewire itself with new information and new skills. And most of us, unfortunately, tend to default to being mentally inflexible, which literally leaves the brain wired the way it's always been. And by simply taking on new challenges, trying new activities, getting some additional education, or even traveling, anything that gets you out of your normal day-to-day rut will begin to change the way the brain operates and literally begin to rewire it in a way that's biologically kind of amazing when you think about it. Imagine software that could rewire the computer underneath it, but that's actually what's happening with the brain.
Well, let me ask you this. So you're telling me that if I take a trip to Rome now, and I'm there for a week, and I return back to New York, will I have rewired my brain? Don't I have to do a little more work than that?
Well, that will be a start of it. I mean, if you go into a new town that you don't know, you're trying to figure out the lay of the land, where's the coffee shop, where's the Trevi fountain, whatever it may be, your brain will begin working in different ways, and the neurons will begin to rewire immediately. But to do something fundamentally that would last a long, long time, it would be to really learn a skill. Let's say it would be the difference between me plinking around on a piano and really learning how to play the piano reasonably well, or learning a language beyond a few phrases, from my Italian phrase book, but really learning the language. So at a deeper level, yes, you really have to work at it to create a real challenge for your brain, but then the brain will start, literally the area for that kind of memory or that kind of activity will get bigger, and the brain will actually expand into new areas to new real estate to use the areas so that you can remember all the stuff you just learned.
What's also interesting, and you mentioned this in the book, is about the role of physical fitness. The brain needs us to be athletic, does it not?
Absolutely. It's sort of the most surprising thing, though now it's been verified by study after study after study, that any kind of physical activity not only helps the brain by improving circulation or flushing out waste products or things like that, but it actually causes the brain to start creating new brain cells. And that was sort of the shocking thing that no one would have expected, and we don't really know why. There are all kinds of theories, but in essence, the physical activity of just getting up and walking around the block will begin to physically grow new brain cells in your brain.
Yes, along with BDNF, what's that been called, the miracle growth for the brain. And then first it was aerobics that was recommended, and now strength training. And I think some of the medical people who delve into it have said that it's the glucose and the oxygen that's driven into the brain. But I think it's also challenging physical activities, right? If you take that same walk every day or that same bicycle ride, I think the brain habituates. I think You've got to change up your workouts, that they have to be so challenging that it goes back to the past, a sound mind and a sound body.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Debbie, absolutely right. The good news is sometimes it's okay to go on a 5-mile run or a 3-mile run or a 2-mile walk or whatever it may be and do the same loop, because then you can kind of disconnect and your brain will start to free associate, and sometimes that's just good for stimulating ideas. But in terms of exercise itself driving brain growth or whatever, you're right. It's the variety, which could be the kind of exercises you do and the route that you might follow. Because everything you do, if you play tennis, if you play golf, if you walk, if you ride, everything just stresses the brain in slightly different ways, and therefore variety actually turns out to be more important than becoming an expert or really good at any one sport or any one activity.
So that's an interesting claim here. Let me ask you this. Can we prevent cognitive decline? I know that you're going to tell me we can. So how do we start building a cognitive reserve?
Challenging the brain all the way through life. Obviously, the best way to start is with education. The more education you get early, the more stimulated you are initially just from the coursework or whatever. Again, take as many different kinds of classes as you can, not just all science or all art or all whatever, but a real variety. And that tends to lead to a life where you have all kinds of different work challenges and interesting kinds of work. And the more stimulating the work is through your life, the more you're going to develop what's called the cognitive reserve, and therefore the healthier your brain will be as you go through life. Now, some of us weren't lucky enough to maybe have the kind of education we wanted or even the kind of careers we wanted, but you can always start today, whether it's with a formal education, going back to school, or just reading a lot, or, again, learning a new skill, whether it's a language or music or any number of activities. Even people who are retired can dramatically improve their cognitive health and their, if you will, their fight against cognitive decline by just getting involved in things and working with other people and engaging other people.
So the key word here is stimulation.
Right.
A multi-level, like the way we're talking about multitasking, we need multi-stimulation, even down to the way we eat our food, correct? I mean, so many studies have been written about the power of wild salmon and omega-3s and how protective that is of the brain to some extent. We don't want to mislead people in Alzheimer's research. Is that what you found too?
Well, it's hard to find. I don't think there's a magic.
I'll give you a moment to think about it because we're going to commercial break, and we will return with your magic food of Collins Hemingway, co-author of Maximum Brainpower. Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is a message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a woman's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and reframe your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers. We're back with Collins Hemingway, co-author of Maximum Brainpower. Okay, so are there superfoods to help protect the brain or not?
The basic rule is if it's good for the heart, it's good for the brain. So we pretty much have to do what our mothers told us, eat our fruits and vegetables and don't eat a lot of meat or a lot of fat and exercise regularly. Certainly fish in the form of salmon is good just in general for your health because it's low in the wrong kind of fats and good in the good kind of fats. The studies are a little bit inconclusive about whether omega-3 supplements work, but it does seem to be true that in actual food it does seem to help. But it's so difficult to pin any one thing down with the brain in terms of biology and the specific food. So just if it's good for you, eat it, and if it's not, don't. It'll probably help your heart, and it'll probably help your brain too.
Yes, because you need good circulation for the brain. You need to control your blood pressure. You really need a sound body in order to have, you can't cut yourself off at the neck. So in the book you made a strong case, and of course this is a show on stress management, that how stress is inflammatory and plays havoc with memory in the brain. Care to comment?
Well, yes, absolutely. The stress is one of the most, as you know, and written about, very, very difficult on the body and our biological well-being, but it also has specific harm to the brain. The stress, high stress, acute stress we're used to because we evolved to deal with, instant danger, and our body responds very well to that. But when we're forced to deal with the chronic stress that comes day after day in the workplace, we are not designed to deal with that. And that kind of stress over time actually damages the brain as well as the body. For example, it damages the hippocampus, which is what controls the stress hormone. So the longer we're under stress, the less able we are to control the stress hormones, which then tend to run riot and cause us even more problems. And then mentally, if you're under stress, the higher levels of the brain just shut down. It's a survival instinct. If you think you're going to be eaten by a lion, you don't want to be thinking about grand thoughts of the universe. You want to be dealing immediately with that threat. And so any threat the body perceives, it doesn't matter whether it's physical or mental, it shuts down the higher orders of thinking and focuses just on what will get me through the next 10 minutes. And that doesn't normally lead to the kind of creativity and great ideas that people look for in the workplace today.
So in other words, I'm feeling very stressed now because it's impossible really in our world. I mean, we just talked at the beginning of our time together about technology overload, which is a stressor. We have global stress. We have national stress. We have environmental stress. I haven't talked about the carcinogens in our environment. A mosquito bite's a stressor. This conversation could potentially, what are we to do, Collins? We could read the book, I'll feel really good. How do we take it down?
Well, that is a difficult thing to answer in 30 seconds or less. We have to learn to step back and not just react. That's what our body wants to do because, again, we're geared to a life in the wild and foraging for food and trying to figure out whether that critter over there is going to eat us or whether we can eat it. But we're not geared to just a day after day of 50 minor stressors. So just stepping back and trying to create, if you will, a quiet space in our life and sort of center ourselves at the start of the day. We have a few tips on how to break up your work day in terms of, don't walk in immediately and jump into a bunch of meetings, but really sit down, plan your day, prioritize your day, begin with a sense of control instead of chaos, and then break it up during the day, doing different things, go out for lunch with colleagues and talk about things utterly unrelated to work. It'll actually make you better at work. Because it'll cause your brain again to kick out of the rut.
That was great. You know what? You're all right. I threw you a curve at the end. You people from Oregon are just fine. Now, if we want to learn more about Maximum Brainpower, where can we go?
Well, you can go to the Maximum Brainpower website and actually Shlomo, his company Cognifit, Cognifit.com has a number of exercises and tests you can take to see where you are cognitively.
Maybe I won't, and maybe I will. Well, thank you so much for being a wonderful breath of fresh air.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me, Debbie.
Be well. Affirmation of the week. Feed your dreams with more fantasies. For the first time, this is now for the latest medical trends. For the first time, a study has found that intensive cholesterol therapy involving a combination of drugs for 20 years may be more effective over the long run than taking a single statin medication. Discuss that with your doctor. Hearing can be permanently damaged by loud summer noises such as fireworks, marching bands, construction, and the like. Be careful. Preserve your hearing. You're not indoors all that much. Weight loss can reduce the prevalence of low testosterone levels in overweight middle-aged men with prediabetes by almost 50%. This is a new study from the Endocrine Society. A commonly prescribed diabetes drug, metformin, reduces the overall cancer risk in people with type 2 diabetes. This came from a large systemic review. And the study really had some informative guide points about type 2 diabetes management. Women with moderate to severe depression had substantial improvement in their symptoms of depression after they received treatment for their vitamin D deficiency, a new study has found. And dieters have less hunger and cravings throughout the day and are better able to keep off lost weight, and that's to keep it off, remember, if they eat a carbohydrate-rich, protein-packed breakfast, and you're going to like this, that includes desserts. I said, whoa, I'm happy to hear this one. And while I'm talking about diet, the research finds that dieters who are trying to maintain their weight loss burned more calories if they, now this might sound a little contradictory, but it seems to work, a low-carb diet than they did eating a low-fat diet. So while complex carbs are beneficial, they're beneficial for your mood, and they're important to health, but you might be of the type of body that needs to eat less of the complex carbs and more protein. Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website on stress management, TurnOnYourInnerLight.com, totally free. Subscribe to my free newsletter at TurnOnYourInnerLight.com, and you will get the latest radio shows archived, emailed directly to you, and they'll take you right into YouTube from my website, along with a fresh new article on stress management, and all the health tips that I didn't get enough time to delineate for you will be emailed to you from TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. Have a wonderful week, and see you on the radio.